Hello travelers, my name is Bre, your favorite tour guide. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 4 of my Viking Village Christmas build. Please consider sharing this with a friend in order to help me reach 100 followers by Christmas. Today, we'll be learning more about the shy and secretive Eurasian lynx, so buckle up and let's go! Try something different while making this visitor center for the enclosure. The goal was to make an indoor space for the guests to enjoy that still flowed well with the habitat. I decided to edit one of the larger staff buildings and discovered that the guest gate will fit perfectly in the doorway. The back wall is going to be entirely glass, so guests get the best view possible. I cleaned up the outside a bit by filling in the gaps left over by the walls that were removed. Placing the information sign in the middle of the right wall will give guests the best chance to view it. These conservation signs will display info about pressing issues such as deforestation, pollution, and in this case, domestication. Lynx are very friend-shaped, but sadly not friends. I placed it in the opposite wall so they wouldn't be competing for attention. Moving to the outside, the vines did look really nice, but I felt like they covered the windows a little too much. Now to the forever struggle of getting the building to line up with the wall. I just took out a bit of fencing and then placed the building as best I could. All it took was to fill in the gaps and then trace around the building with the null barrier. This way the lynx hopefully won't escape or go through the visitor center. Now I just have to make a spot for the keeper gate so it's a little bit more realistic when placed inside a building instead of on the edge of a habitat. They fit perfectly into the doorway, so that helps make it a little easier. I just cleaned up the outside and then it was time to add in both gates. The guest gate went in perfectly, but the null barrier on the left side was a little off-center, making it difficult to add the staff door. I know that lynx are decent climbers and can jump very high, so after placing down the last wall, I raised it up a few feet to hopefully keep them in. I connected the guest gate to the path outside and did the same with the interior. Using the path grid tool made this really easy. Now for some interior decorating. I'm staying with the starlights we have used previously and keeping with the cozy orange glow. Heading back outside, it's finally time to start working on the exhibit, and it's also time for our first lynx fact. The Eurasian lynx is one of 4 species within the umbrella genus of lynx. Lynx can be found all over the world, but are most prominent in Europe, Asia, and North America. The Eurasian lynx specifically is the most common, as it can be found throughout Russia, Northern Europe, and the mountainous regions of China, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan. These ferocious felines are the largest of the lynx species and the 3rd largest predator in Europe. They have a very strict carnivorous diet and mostly feed on deer, foxes, and rabbits. In the wild, lynx may use a hollow log or the roots of a tree as a den, but in this enclosure I thought it might be fun to build them an underground burrow. I used the flattened terrain tool to dig out a little cave underneath the mountain, and then smoothed it all out to give it a more seamless look. And of course, after all that smoothing, I decided to roughen it up a bit and add in some texture. For this enclosure, I wanted a waterfall that kind of resembled a runoff stream into a dry lake that they might actually encounter in the wild. As we discussed in last week's episodes, waterfalls are not my strong suit, but the only way to get better is to keep trying. This one is going to have a lot more layers and texture compared to the previous ones. I'm only using the top and bottom waterfall sections and filling in the gaps with small rocks. I'm hoping this won't look too crazy. The goal is to just make it look pretty but also interesting. Planet Zoo has a ton of rock options, but is actually kind of lacking in the small stone category. I would really appreciate some smaller rock options. I had to just kind of randomly place and turn the few rocks provided, and in the end it looks okay, but not great, but definitely better than last week's waterfalls, so a win is a win. Into the den we go now. I wanted this to be spacious and cozy with lots of nice bedding. Lynx are naturally shy animals in the wild and in the game. They don't love being seen at all times, so this den will work as a little private sanctuary for them to get away from the guests. I also included a scent marker so they had something to play with down here. Lynx are excellent climbers, and even though the game doesn't require climbing equipment, it seems wrong not to include any, and it makes the mountain look less bare. There are lots of really cool pre-made climbing structures as well as tons of individual pieces to build your own. I really like the levels of this one and made a few slight adjustments. For the middle of the lake, I thought it would be fun to have an island for them to go out and lounge on. Lynx, like many big cats, only hunt during dawn and dusk and spend the day sleeping away. Hopefully this platform will provide them with a nice place to do just that. I used the fallen log post and a few of the smaller branches to give them a good way to climb up, as well as the long wooden platform that they can walk across. This tiny house should provide them with shelter and shade. When on the lake, I noticed that the house might be too small and everything was just a little off, so I spent some time adjusting and straightening it out. As for the island, I used the largest platform and brought it out as far as I could with the long bridge between them. A few more tree trunks and a rotation of the house and it was good to go. Now for some terrain painting and some more lynx facts. Did you know that the animals that hunt during dawn and dusk are not diurnal or nocturnal, but crepuscular? So easy to remember, I know! When it is time to hunt, the Eurasian lynx will stalk its prey through the thick vegetation until it can get really close. Then it will pounce! Its thick fluffy coat, often patterned with dark spots, helps it blend into the shadows of the trees. Now it's my favorite time, enrichment time! For our enrichment activities today, I have provided a pumpkin, an ice block, a cardboard box, a scratcher, a rotating food sling, and a scratchable climbing pole. Then I touched up the last bits of terrain and made the entire fence unclimbable. Let's get some lynx in here and see how they like it. I went with 2 females to see which one was better. Now to change the info sign. And almost immediately after putting them in, I got a warning that one has escaped. It appears our missing friend was able to jump from high on the hill to here. I must not have noticed when terraforming. I'm just gonna box them up and flatten that down a bit. I then made the mountain a little bit steeper and the fence even taller, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Now it seems the 2 female lynx are fighting. I can't catch a break with these cats. Regina was not victorious in her duel, but because she is in good health, she will be released back into the wild. Checking in on the male, we see he's not at all pleased with the plants I put in previously. Sometimes it's best to just start from scratch. Lynx love thick vegetation, so I tried to add in a lot of shrubs and ground plants that they could hide in, as well as a few tall trees for them to climb into. When placing the ground plants, I saw that the pathway of the building goes into the habitat. I'll fix that later. Some lily pads should help make the little lake very pretty. The mountain went through a few different forest types, but I ultimately decided to use forest perspective. By placing small trees at the top and increasing their size as I work down, it'll make the mountain look taller. Some new shrubs and more ground cover still isn't enough, but we're getting closer. Most of the flowering plants I added so far have been blue, so I put some yellow ones in there for some more color variety. Let's plant some nettle against the glass and move the building to its proper place. And to fix the keeper gate, it's not perfect, but it works. I then added in a coffee bar for the visitors to enjoy. We're going to get serious for just a moment. The Eurasian lynx is currently listed as least concerned by the IUCN, but that wasn't always the case. They were hunted nearly to extinction and even considered to be extinct for over 200 years within most of Central Europe. Conservation efforts began reintroduction programs for the Eurasian lynx in the 1970s, and now populations are booming. In Spain, there is a lynx that is not only endangered, but the most endangered wild cat species in the world. In 2001, the Liberian lynx had an estimated population of only 64 mature adults, but thanks to conservation efforts, their populations are growing exponentially. 648 were recorded in 2022, and an estimated 2,000 today. Let this be a lesson that conservation and reintroduction can be successful, but the work is never done. If you would like to help support the Eurasian lynx or the Iberian lynx, consider donating to the Felidae Conservation Fund that helps wildcats worldwide. Make sure you write a comment with Eurasian lynx or Iberian lynx so they can designate 100% of your donation to go to protecting those specific species. Links to both will be in the description below. This concludes today's tour. Thank you so much for joining me today with the amazing lynx enclosure. Be sure to tip your tour guide by sharing this video with a friend in order to spread the word and help me reach 100 followers by Christmas. Okay, bye!